What? So, what would you say? You know, I mean, you brought up the fact that you didn't get to share in some of the glory, with your dad. And so are you being intentional to make sure you're sharing in that with your son now?
I think that term glory is very interesting. One of the things I believe we also have a journey. So my journey was I did exactly what I was supposed to do. And he was put here to handle me in a manner that I was not, I don't know if I was prepared for. So he saw me play from 11 till I was almost 40 years old. So I had finished playing for Grenada. I had played at college. I'd gone to play when I graduated from college. I told him I wanted to go and try and play. Now I was 25. He was like, yeah, I don't know. But the reality is you can't play, you're more hanging out. But I had friends that were abroad that played. So I was able to enjoy that part of life. So I think I'm very, very grateful for what he did. I've been able to move on professionally and thankfully I'm in a good place because of what he drove me towards.
Yeah.
So one of the things I have to share with my son too is that there's playing professional sports is in America, people still don't understand the professional side of soccer.
Mm.
There are actually people who think, I could go and get a trial with Man U. And I'm like, you think you could walk up to Google tomorrow and just go and get a job? Like, they don't have trials. They pick people. Like, they say, I want to see you, Mike, and I want to see you, Jay. Yeah. But before you get there, they've seen a million of us. You don't just go and try out. It's not a job application that you complete a form and you get. It's a very, very, very tough, hard work. So part of my responsibility is to share that with my son. That you have to keep your eye on this side over here, on some form of. You have to keep grounded while keeping striving. Maximize your ability. You have one life here. Enjoy your journey. You've been given certain gifts. We all have different gifts. Maximize those gifts. Do yourself justice by putting in the work. Everybody has to put in the work regardless of what they do. You just have to grow up earlier than everybody else. If you want to be a professional athlete, soccer player, you have to be in the game by 18 years old, right? Your friends who may want to go to college and get become any profession, they start their profession at 28, right? Totally different mentality, mindset. So you have to be a 28-year-old at 15, 16, while you're around 15, 16-year-olds. Yeah. And that's very, very difficult to teach a kid, and that's why, to my point, my dad may have seen that wasn't for me. Mm-hmm. So I've been trying to, since my kid was 7, since Kristian has been 7, 6, 5, I've been trying to prepare him for this. Like, always prepared. Like, that if this opportunity presents itself, he's able to stand up like a 27-year-old while he's 16.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to go back. I want to ask, it's a debate we have here, as soon as we're talking about your experience with your son and your dad experience as well. So the question is, who take credit from the developing part of the child? Is it the coaches or the parent, especially in your case?
So one of the parts is development is such an interesting word. And James, what I think is, I think it's a combination of a whole bunch of things. Mm-hmm. Because if you were able to develop, if it was strictly for the coaches, Messi's would be coming out to La Mesa every week.
Yeah, that's what.
Right.
Yeah.
If it was the parents, mm-hmm. then Maradona's father would have been great. His son would have been great. It would have been a bloodline thing. Yes. What we see is a combination of factors. You have to have the right physical specimen, and you'll always have the anomaly. You'll have a Messi who is short, but he's exceptionally quick.
Yeah.
So you have to have some physical attributes. So you have the parent piece. You have to have a parent that's willing to drive you and support you and move you, especially in the US, right? You have to get to practice, go to school. You have to move around, physically be able to move around. When we grew up, you could go across the street and play.
Yeah.
So you need to have somebody who can get you around, who's willing to do that. You have to have the financial ability to do it, right? It takes money. You have to leave work. Some people might be salary. It takes effort, right? And then you have to have this young man or young woman who's dedicated to the game. It has to be a full-time dedication. But it depends on where you want to go, right? But if you want to go to the ultimate level, that's the bare minimum, right? So you have to have, so I think it's a combination of everything. You have to have the right coach who is sound enough to give you what you need. So one of the things I saw, and James, is such an interesting thing for me, is I used to coach my son I started when he was about 3. And I would coach the, people in our area, and we had this little team together. And we did this for a few years, and then he was about 7. And I left work and I came to a practice. And when I came to the practice, I arrived late. And another parent was coaching him, and that parent was coaching at a junior college. And I saw him doing some exercise with the boys that I thought was too advanced for them. So I was about to tell him stop. But by the powers that be, a parent was coming out, and that parent stopped to talk to me. So I couldn't walk over and tell him to stop, right? So while I'm speaking to this parent, I'm looking at them. And he's doing these exercises. And it was 20 boys, and then he would do one, and it'll come down to 15, and then he'd do some hard exercises. And then eventually he was doing some exercises that I remember doing as a grown man. And my son was doing it. And I remember coming home and telling my wife I have to stop coaching my son tonight. Because what I realized is that although I thought I was a coach, I was hindering his development. Now, there were other kids that were benefiting because they weren't at the level he was. So the drills I was doing was good for them. So as best as my intentions were, I was actually holding back myself. And so I think coaches have to also have to understand when they may have reached their limit, when it makes sense to put a kid in a young man, a young woman in a different environment. You have to be able to balance the challenge with successes. I think confidence is a big part of life. It's a big, big part of sport. And so you have to be in an environment where you're pushed a bit, but you're also able to succeed. You can't be a striker and never score because you're playing with children who are 4 years older than you. It makes no sense to the growth. So you have to be able to play with people that are a little older than you, so they push you if you're able to. You have to be in a physical environment where you're not hurt, because a 9-year-old bones are different to a 12-year-old bones, right? But then you have to be in an environment where you score to, so you get the feeling, the joy, the ability, the thought that you belong. So what I've always done is I've played my son up, and then I play him on age. I play him up and play him on age. So he always gets the feeling of being pushed. And I know when he is born, I know how his body grows. So I know he is an August birthday. So in the fall, even though let's say he's 15 now, his body isn't 15. He still has a 14-year-old body. So he would play up, right? And he would be struggling. And I'm like, everybody relax. By the spring, he'll be fine because his body will grow into his space. But I had to have that conversation with him. So in the fall, I'll have him playing up and then playing on age in another place. So he'll score a bunch here, feel very confident here, and then come over here and be battling with James, right? Battling with James. And I'll tell him, just wait. In 3 months, you'll grow. Your body will get. I knew how his body would grow.
Yeah.
And so it's a balance. You have to have knowledge of your family history, how big, how strong you are, how powerful you are. He looks like Uncle John. Uncle John was fast. It's going to be And so you have, so I think there's a balance. There's a place for your parent, there's a place for the coach, and then you have a place for the child. And if everything comes together, then at a minimum, you'll have someone who love the sport and get the most out of whatever their ability is. And at the end, that's all you could ask. And wherever they fall, then they fall. They'll be the ones that started to play at 6 and finished at 72 because they enjoyed it all the way. Yeah. And at the end, that's what we want, you know?
Yeah.
That's what we want.
Yeah. No, that's, yeah. I mean, you cover a lot there. I think that what you just said could serve as a masterclass for a lot of parents in the U.S. in particular, to really give them a true sense of what it takes. I think part of it is when, for foreigners, for us, we come, we're in it so much, in our native cultures that we intuitively know a lot of this, right? So the physicality needs of a player, the mental, the emotional maturity that's needed, the all the things you mentioned, and so we take that for granted, that people here may not have that same understanding, and so they may just see, a kid that's skilled, and just think, oh yeah, the kid has it, or a team with a coach that wins a lot and say, oh, that's the team I need to have my kid on, not understanding how your kid is going to fit into that or how that's going to help in the development at all. Or, if the kid is big, oh yeah, my kid is ready for the next level, whatever it is. And so, no, I mean, I think that's, that's well said.
Well said.
It's a very, the development is key. It's just it takes a lot of little touches to get that piece, and there's nothing like playing. So there's not. I am not a fan of futsal. I am a fan of free play. And I think there's nothing like that. There's nothing like being able to express yourself without judgment, right? There's and you know that in all walks of life, right? You have to have the permission to fail, but the permission to express yourself. They have players who are naturally creative, and then they see. And I think our people tend to be very creative. We dress a certain way. We have earrings, we have the styles. So it's only natural that we will play a certain way, right? But then our culture is also very relaxed. So what we struggle with is the business side of the soccer, right? That it's a business and you have to really get into it and work hard, because our culture is also very, it's a laissez-faire, lackadaisical kind of thing. It's us. So that's the side we battle. We've been gifted physically. We have natural flair. And when you get that mix, but you also, as you mentioned, Mike, you have to, a coach can pick you because you're big, put you in the wrong position for him to win, and you're never developed. So as a parent, you have to know when that's happening to your own. And you have to say, this is not the right environment for him. It's the right environment for the coach, for the club, but not for my son or my daughter. And that's when you make the decision. I've been very careful with Chris, making sure that I know the coaches that he plays with, and I know when they come in to give him what he needs at what times in his life. And I also know now that he has to go because it's harder to get that now for what he needs right now. And so it's just in a way, it comes, I guess, with a little bit of experience, a lot of humbling of self and willingness to listen and learn, but also really approaching it very brutally. I was telling, and then, we have these fantasies that our son or daughter is going to be the next. And I tell parents, I said, a coach doesn't have to tell you where your child is. I say, what you should be doing is with every game your child looks at, look at the position he's played and ask yourself if you would pick him to start. If you had to pick a team out of just the two teams that played, would you pick your child first or second in their position? And then go regional and all the games he's traveled to for the year. And would you pick him to be, after you have to pick a team, would you pick him in the starting team, first or the second position? Then go nationals. And then if by the time you're finished with that, he's number 25 or she's number 25 in their position, I say you haven't gone to Europe yet, you haven't crossed the continent. So then maybe professional is not for your child. But be honest. And I always draw a kin. I say there's a reason why American Idol has bloopers, because somebody didn't tell those kids that they can't sing. I say, so there's nothing wrong with singing in the bathroom. Just don't go on, there's a place for that. Yeah. So and you're not being a bad parent, you're not being a bad, but I don't think that's the role of the coach. Because as a parent, it's very hard to hear that this individual that you love and you want the best for may not be good enough. So you may not even hear that. You may translate that into a like or don't like me, or, he's a size 9 when everybody else wears size 7, and you make up excuses to justify why you think your young one isn't making it. So, but that's what I encourage them to do. I say, just look at it very objectively. Look at it as a business. Look at it as if you had to employ that person, and then make that judgment, and then put your child in the right place and your mind in the right place. And it makes for you to enjoy the experience better too. On the side, heating up too much, you're enjoying the experience with your child. And that young person would love the game because their experience will be all positive. Yeah. When we finish, just go and get some ice cream. Because I know you're not going to Man City. We can watch Man City on Sunday, But and I think that's the part I think we need to do. One of the things we need to do a little bit better on as parents.
Yeah. So you said you do this to other parents, right? You tell other parents that don't expect the club or the coach to provide this guidance. This is something that they should do, on their own. Yeah. And how what's the reception? What's the reception that you get when you do this?
I've been very fortunate. Most people, so I don't freely dispense any advice. If someone seeks and they want to ask me about something, then I will tell them. Mm-hmm. And I caveat it with the coach's job is to say what your child needs to develop. Mm-hmm. You have to figure out where that will pass. So Mike, it's very interesting. I have never, maybe I need to think about that and see if I have any repeat people that ask me again or anything further. But I also think it's my responsibility as well, because people know in this area, they know the people that have played a little bit. Yeah. And so I think it's part of my responsibility as well. I know a lot of the coaches, and I know that part is difficult for them. Yeah. And I'm a parent, so I know what that could be like, and finding that. And I know I am fortunate that my son is quite talented. So I also know that my exposure with him is not everybody's experience. So I can see that side of it. Yeah. So it's a very unique, great place to be in. And I think it's the more we talk about our people about the reality of it, also puts them in a better place. I want people to make a decision that's best for their child. Mm. And listen, if you get to college in America now, on a scholarship, right? They have a lot of people who play professional soccer that don't make the amount of money, the equivalent of a scholarship.
That's so true.
Right? This quarter million by the time you're finished with 4 years of school. So and who knows, that might get you a master's degree as well. So, I mean, what's better? And what that's a professional contract you just got. Mm-hmm. You just got it in terms of an education. That's gonna, so don't look at it as if you've lost. They're tails. When Man City recruits you and they start to look at you, they say he's going to be on the team in Korea. He's going to be on New York Red Bull. He's going to be in, NYFC. and they tear the players, and they say this is where you're going to be,
Yeah.
Based on the ability they see. And it doesn't mean that's you're destined to stay there. You know, people blossom at different times.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. It's really important as a parent that you have that type of a reality check.
Yeah.
A reality check.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're doing a great service, actually, for parents and for the youth development community in the U.S. period. I mean, this is actually something U.S. Soccer should probably contact you to adopt, because the reason I think this is so important is because it takes away the burden from the clubs and the coaches from driving home this message, right? And it also alleviates the unnecessary stressors that some families have on themselves, because they think, there's this idea that they're going to make it. They have the greatest thing. It's just that the coach is not playing kid right, or the club is not winning all the games it's supposed to win, those kind of things. And I think if we all just, take a step back and, realize, like, what you're saying is that, one, people develop at kids in particular, especially, and especially we're talking about a lot of these kids are pre-puberty.
Yeah.
Right. So there's even more of to kind of gauge their full development, or where they're going to be, speed wise or strength, or it's unfair. But that simple heuristic of just having parents, like, would you, if you had to pick the game you just saw, like just even break it down to that level, the game you just saw, if you had to pick your starting 11, would you pick your child in their position? Now you have to take that starting 11 to the next major tournament or whatever. You're playing Man City's academy, or whatever it is. Would you take your child? Would your child be in that?
Or the game next week against somebody else. Or the game next week against the next person.
Yeah.
It's something you have to do. It's something you have to do on your own, and not then translate that into, then I need to push this person more, or I need you have to where that does is an internal assessment, and it puts you in a place of comfort, and you get, and you could see it, right, and then you could see when sometimes you're on the side and you're almost drawn into the game, right, and you get sucked in. And you kick too because Johnny had a ball coming across, and you kick your foot and kick the spectator next to you. But as parents, you want what's best,
Yeah.
You want what's best, and it's a hard balance. It's a hard balance.
But
it's the best. It's the best sport in the world.
Yeah.
It's the best relationship they'll have. So
yes.